All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Rosefellow Podcast. I'm really excited about my guest today, Marc Dubé, Executive Vice President at Colliers. Not only one of the top brokers in the city, but a good friend, a friend of mine that go back
20 years?
20 years at least, before real estate.
Before real estate.
Yeah,
both of us. Actually, so I've been in the business for 20 years, so it's over 20 years we know each other.
It's
probably closer to 25.
I remember, I think the French term is peddling.
Peddling. We were doing promotional products.
From city to city, Calgary, Winnipeg, Ottawa, Montreal, and going to these trade shows. And I'd be promoting my dad's company, which was sport bags and patio umbrellas. And you were in a similar business, right? It was leather goods, was it not?
Leather goods, and then it pivoted into baseball caps. And it was, if the Grand Prix needed 20,000 baseball caps with logos on it, we would bring them in from China and do all that stuff. And
What a switch from that to real estate.
Big switch. Thank goodness.
Yeah, absolutely. And today, I mean, you got a huge team at Colliers. You're again, I refer to you as the power broker in the city. There's only a handful of guys who are at the top of their game in our industry, and you are one of them. So congratulations to you. Thank
you. I mean, we work hard. We also try and be some of the most ethical guys out there.
Absolutely.
We collaborate with everybody, and everybody's happy to work with us, and we're happy to work with them. So it's a really good career, and it's a great industry.
Where we've seen a change at Rosefellow is at the onset, we took on every listing ourselves. So every time we develop a building, and because we build on spec, they're available for rent. Sam and I and our leasing team would take it upon ourselves to do what we need to do to get them leased. We've come to realize that the best way to get the best quality type tenants in our buildings is to partner up with the best in the industry. And that's one of the topics we're talking about today.
Right.
Is a new listing that we're going to collaborate on together.
Correct.
In one of our newest acquisitions in Laval, in the North Shore.
Very exciting.
We're so thrilled that you accepted this partnership with us to promote and to lease these buildings, and the site's on Highway 13, a stone's throw away from Montreal. It is a RioCan shopping center with Hardin that we acquired a portion of just south of Ardennes, and we were really excited when we had the opportunity to sit down with you and your team to introduce the site to you and see if you'd be interested to work it with us.
Well, look, I mean, we're very excited about the project because, frankly, it's one of the best sites, if not the best site, available right now in the Greater Montreal area. And it's a great background story about how you acquired it also. We knew that the site was being very quietly offered out to the market. We know that there were some players that were there before Rosefellow, and sometimes it's better to be second or third in the offer process than being first out of the gate. And I think Rosefellow had a vision for the site that maybe was different from others. And, we're able to help you facilitate that acquisition also, which is, you showed a lot of confidence working with our team on that. So we're very excited about the project. One of the few infield development projects that are happening right now. We've seen a lot of greenfield, but greenfield being buying just raw land and building, and actually buying something that has existing buildings on it and looking to develop and create something brand new. We haven't seen a lot of that in the Greater Montreal area. So I think this is going to be a really interesting project for the industry.
You mentioned it earlier, where we weren't the initial chosen one.
Right.
By the vendor. And that's happened to us many times. And the comment was, well, some of these competitors that we went with initially have created a track record over time. And our comment was, we agree, we've been in business for 5 years. But when we do commit and we do shake your hand and we do sign an offer, we will get it to the finish line. And we left off on that. And then when we got the call back saying, hey, so-and-so competitor dropped the site, they asked for another extension. We said, no, we'd like to revert to Rosefellow. Are you going to keep your promise? Absolutely. And one, not only because it's a promise to the vendor, it's a commitment to you and your team who had the property. And for us, that verbal promise means so much, because we don't want to burn our bridges and our reputation, but neither yours, because you're vouching for us.
For sure.
To the vendor. So we want to make sure that when you come in and say, Rosefellow will get it to the finish line, they will close, we do everything in our power to make sure that happens. And fortunately.
And it did. I mean, it was a very interesting transaction. Took a long time to, not such a long time to get to an accepted offer, but to go through the due diligence. And there was, as we say in the industry, there was a lot of hair on the deal. And I think it's made a lot of waves in the industry, that acquisition, not just in the Greater Montreal area, but also in larger industrial markets like Toronto and Vancouver know about this transaction. People have called us about wondering what the details are and what the vision is for the site. So now that we're a part of it, going forward as the leasing team representing Rosefellow on this, like we're very excited. It's going to be a great project.
What was interesting is some of the comments I heard in the industry. We can't understand how you're penciling this deal. How are you making the numbers work? We did spend $75 million for a 1.25 million square foot.
$62 a foot.
Correct, for industrial land.
Right.
We never look at what rental rates are today. We envision what they will be when the project will be done. And in this case, it'll be done in 2027. Do we believe that rental rates will grow at that time? We believe there'll be a space crunch by 2027. What we saw on this site is something incredible, something special. We were buying a portion of a shopping center where there is still a shopping center next door. So what we have here is a site that has highway access, highway visibility, and all the services a potential employer and employee could be looking for when they go to work. Restaurants next door, grocery stores. Gold's Gym is right next door. A huge labor pool in the area. And again, only 5 minutes away at most from the island of Montreal. Is there value to that? Absolutely. Were we willing to pay a premium? Definitely. And we did. We think this is, to your point, probably the best site in the Greater Montreal area. And just by the initial announcement that we acquired the site, the demand started coming in from multinational companies in the United States and in Canada as well, saying, can we sit down? We need to move our head office. We love this site. When can we meet?
Well, I agree with everything you just said. And one thing that I'd like to add to is when you mentioned that you're in close proximity to the island of Montreal. Well, I think where Laval has come a long way from when you and I started in the business. And Laval is now, I consider it to be an extension of the island of Montreal. So it's no longer a secondary market. It's an absolute primary market. And I believe that, just if you look at some of the leasing velocity that we've seen in the last couple of months, and whereas things have been really quiet, we're all in the same boat, right?
Absolutely.
We've seen this since last November. It's been a quiet industry, not a lot of demand. Things have really started to pick up. And a lot of that demand is coming from Laval or people looking to be in Laval. So I think that the future is really interesting for this project. I happen to agree with you when you said about space crunch. I think you've heard me say that before.
I have.
Somewhere.
That came from you, actually.
Right, somewhere. And when I look at where we are right now in the market, I think that 2025 mid-year, we've gone through some really interesting economic times now, especially with the relationship with the U.S. and how that's really changed. I believe that if we're not at the bottom of the market, we're scraping the bottom. I think it's going to be a difficult rest of the year. There's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. But I believe that come 2026, we're going to start to see a better economic situation. And that economic situation is going to spur on new requirements for industrial buildings. And right now, there's really not a lot of product being built. If anything, we forecast right now at Colliers that we're going to see a maximum of 2 million square feet being delivered in the Greater Montreal area. We're 365 million square feet. So that is an extremely low ratio of new building to inventory. So where I think we position or this site is that with Rosefellow's business plan of not waiting for the client to show up, but to actually go into the ground, I think that that's going to put you in a very, very good position come end of 26, 2027, where I agree with you, things are really going to be much different than they are today.
The reason we're calling for a 2027 delivery is, as you're aware, we're buying the shopping center that has tenants that are leasing space. A majority of the leases come to term. These retailers, these leases are coming to term in mid-January. So we're starting the first portion of demolition mid-January, and then the balance of those leases come due, I think it's beginning of March. So the actual shovel is going to be going in the ground to start erecting these industrial buildings as soon as the ground thaws out. So probably between May 1st and May 15th is when we start the project. And our intent, and the master plans being produced as we speak, is to have one, what we like to call a bomber, a large industrial building at the western portion of the site, the back of the site. And we say bomber, probably around 400,000 square feet
Bomber, that's a bomber for Montreal.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of other markets, you'll be over 1 million square feet, but for the Greater Montreal area, 400,000 to 500,000 square feet is a very large facility.
Yeah. So we're designing it in a way that we can subdivide that, as you know. So there, if there's a demand for half of that, for 200,000 square feet, or for even 100,000 square feet, we can subdivide that larger building at the back, and then at the front, we will have either one or two smaller buildings, and we say smaller, probably totaling about 200,000 square feet at most. And why we're splitting that up, we do have a road or a servitude that goes right across the site that gives direct access to customers going to Ardennes. So we're going to maintain that road down the middle. And it's good because it separates the site nicely from a very large industrial building to two smaller ones that could accommodate, industrial buildings who are looking for maybe a little bit of a retail footprint up front with their warehouse in the back. So that's something that we're looking forward to starting construction on. And again, without any tenancy, the objective is, it'd be great to sign 3 leases up front and have it all leased before we put the shovel in the ground. But the business plan is that we're starting as soon as we finish demolition.
Well, you're matching what the current tenant demand is, because the tenants right now are, especially with so much volatility in the market, are really they're not looking for 3 years down the road. They're looking for 3 to 6 months down the road.
Exactly. So,
for people to plan on a built-to-suit, it's just difficult. Unless it's a very specialized building, manufacturing, that's a different story. But we're talking where most of the demand is coming in the market right now is coming from third-party logistics, warehousers, people, warehousing their own product. That the business plan of having this built on spec is really going to be able to satisfy needs when it's ready.
The one question I like to use when we sit down with our architects and contractors are, what's going to make this a world-class project? We don't, industrial for us is not 4 tin walls and a little, office component up front. We like making and designing the sexiest industrial buildings out there. So this is going to be one where we're going to have the carbon zero certification, the LEED certification, and we're challenging our architects, our engineers, our contractors to put forth something that will be unique, that will be special, something that any multinational company is going to look at and said, that's what we're going to call home. So we're really going to push the envelope when it comes to design, that people look and say, I can't believe that's an industrial warehouse. But will make people proud to go to work every day in.
Well, you're also fronting Autoroute 13.
Absolutely.
With, millions of cars going by on a regular basis. So, to me, I think that's a very important point. And what we're seeing from tenants now is, 5 years ago, we were talking about, even 10 years ago, we were starting to talk about LEED and industrial buildings and green initiatives. It was all as well, it's a nice to have, but we're not willing to pay for it, and we're not willing to incur any costs for it. That mentality has now changed. And especially with the multinationals that we're talking about, yeah, you're seeing a lot more demand for those green initiatives, even coming from investment firms, coming from banks, that they want to be involved in these types of projects. So
you bring a great point up. People ask us all the time, why do you do it? Is it just for your own ESG initiative? No. it's great. But beyond that, banks are giving preferential rates today if you build green. They have their own ESG initiatives, and that's why they do that. Investors in 2030, in 2035, have their own ESG initiative. They will not be allowed to buy anything that is not green, that is not carbon, that's not LEED certified. So by putting forth these properties, one, we respond to our own commitments to the environment by building right, but also that there's benefits along the way. The other question I'd like to ask you is where's the market at when it comes to Class A demand? These high bay, well located products. Do you see a difference in the vacancy rates when it comes to Class A compared to some of the older stock in the market?
Absolutely. There is definitely what we would call a flight to quality. That flight to quality is going for newer buildings, better energy efficient buildings, and much higher clear heights. We've moved away from being an older facility, low clear height manufacturing style building to warehousing. And that's what the Greater Montreal area is right now. And so when we look at older facilities and maybe some of the older industrial parks in the Greater Montreal area, we're really seeing that vacancy rate much higher in those what we would call Class C, Class B buildings versus Class A. And frankly, right now, they're really, even if we forget the vacancy rate, as far as availability rate, Class A buildings, there's very few available in the market.
I've been asked where are clear heights going today. These buildings here, the bomber, we'll call it, will be at least 42 foot clear. And I've been asked the question, well, why not 40 anymore? Why 42? And it's just about doing a proper analysis. We look at a lot of these international companies who now are palletizing 6 feet high. If you palletize 6 feet high, you're able to get that one additional pallet into your warehouse by going to 42 over 40 feet clear. So our new standards today in any big box that we're going to develop is a 42-foot clear building. So if you think of cubic space, if you think of energy cost savings, if you think of the bay sizes, the marshalling bays, these are all features that we think check off the boxes for these larger multinationals who are planning for the next 10, 15 years of space.
Absolutely. We've done volume studies for tenants. When we're looking at comparing this building versus that building, with different clear heights, once you do that volume study and you show the tenant what they can possibly get inside the warehouse, it makes a really big difference in their decision making. It saves them money. And it's a great initiative for them to really start taking a smaller footprint but going higher.
Yeah. What to finish off, Marc, what would you say is the one thing that excites you most about the site, about this project?
Look, I think right now what excites me the most is its location. I really think that it's and I said it before, and I really do think that right now it's probably one of the best sites that will be available in the Greater Montreal area. And frankly, that's really just because of its location. I mean, you're one bridge and you're on the island of Montreal. You're next to all kinds of amenities. You're fronting Highway 13. So I think somebody who's looking for visibility, and as we know, when you've got a big sign on a highway, it's free advertising,
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that's going to take get a lot of attention from tenants.
So do I. I think what's great about Laval as well is there's a tax incentive now. So you factor that in. You factor the low energy cost because it is carbon zero, it is LEED. You factor in all the amenities we're going to be delivering to any type of tenant moving in with the services next door, the labor pool that we can attract from the North Shore, from Laval, even from Montreal. We're just excited that we're able to check off so many boxes for some of these multinational type companies with what we think is going to be an extremely beautiful building with great neighbors. Ardennes, Structube,
Sure.
Their corporate head offices
Sure.
next door with warehousing. It's just going to be such a nice flow from high-end industrial to a beautiful commercial center that's being run by Hardin and RioCan. So we're excited about the partnership we have together. We're excited about announcing what the project's going to look like. And then I'm sure very, very soon we're going to be announcing which one of these multinational companies is going to be signing on board with us.
Looking forward to it. But I'll tell you something just to finish off. I think if I go back to your question and what am I most excited about this is that you're actually building it. There's a lot of good land sites out there that have amenities and have other good values, but the fact that you have this site and you're building, that's going to be the game changer here.
Amazing. Appreciate it, Marc. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Again, thank you all for joining us on today's Rosefellow Podcast. We encourage all of our listeners to subscribe and share the episode and follow us on Rosefellow's social media page and Marc's as well. You have a big presence on social media, so thanks again, Marc. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.